Thank you very much. Welcome to this really interesting conversation. The question is personality versus skills. Is that a polarity when we think about jobs, career progression, getting ahead, getting our first job? Is that really something where we need to make a decision? Typically, skills is what we are currently able to do. There's also potential, what we could do in the future. There's attitude, there's motivation, which determines how we are doing it. So there are many different elements at the moment that are being discussed, and we want to discuss in this forum a little bit what are the current thought processes when it comes to hiring managers, companies, but also for individuals. So we would really like to explore the relationship that we have at the moment with these different concepts and what our current world really needs. I'm joined by two very passionate executives today and have the great pleasure to have this conversation with you. Bailey Parnell is the founder and the CEO of SkillsCamp, an international soft skills development company, working with the world's leading organizations on soft skills development, and we will hear a lot about that in the next 20 minutes. And Ageel Angawi is a business advisor and a coach, and until very recently was the former VP for home care in MENA Plus for Unilever. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation with both of you. Welcome to this.
Thank you, Laura.
Now, before we start, a very interesting statistic. So we have a large audience, of course, online. I think we have about 20,000 people following this on the Misk platform. And we ran a poll in terms of what would the audience believe is more important, personality or skills. And the poll revealed that about 62% of the audience would think personality is more important, and 38% voted for the skills, which is a really interesting pulse of the time. So my question to both of you is maybe, why are we talking about this topic? Why is it so relevant today? And is it only relevant for Gen Z entering the job market, or is it relevant on a broader scale?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me here. Happy to talk about this on a global stage. I should also say that even though it's called personality versus skills, I actually make a living in taking what we would think are personality traits and breaking them down like skills. So we might call them soft skills, people skills, human skills, really call them what you want. I think it's huge right now for a number of reasons. One, we're more globalized than ever, and this event is a perfect example. And because of that, we've realized that, wait a sec, when we have different hard skills or different industries, what translates universally, it's, do I have empathy, do I communicate well? And these are the ones that are really helping our global collaboration. Secondarily, we have 4 generations in the workplace at the same time for the first time ever. And this is also a perfect event for that. And so we're also realizing that there are discrepancies in workplace expectations and more of those personality traits intergenerationally, and so how do we do that well? And then probably the biggest thing right now is the push towards AI, automation, robotics, and jobs that we maybe never would have expected to be automated are being automated. And so you're left with this question of what's left over after. And I would say a lot of it is the human skills or the soft skills. And I was telling you both and some others earlier that my husband is a son of Indian immigrants. And he always jokes that when he was growing up, he had to have this career trifecta or the career trinity. And I know some of you were laughing with me about it yesterday. The doctor, lawyer, engineer, maybe accountant, pick one. And what they were saying was these were honorable professions that made good money, respected. And now fast forward, and what are some of these jobs that are being automated? Accountants, paralegals, surgeons, and those jobs that would have been seen as the most important. So again, over a career, you're left with, if the hard skills or these technical skills can change, what skills are going to serve me over a lifetime? And I think you're left with personality skills.
Very true. Very true. Ageel, what's your view on this?
No, I think it's probably even more relevant with the beautiful vision that we have in this country here, because people are the most important resource. And I know we say that a lot, but in our country, with this amazing vision, it is about what are the skills that you need today to be able to fulfill and for us all to reach the dream that we have.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, as a hiring manager in your former life, I would be interested in understanding what were you looking for when you were looking at maybe new employees or career progression, and maybe how has this view changed also over the years? Has there been a progression?
Yeah. I think skills always evolve. You need a foundation of skills whenever I interview for a job, but they evolve with time and they change. I think what's constant is attitude, and I agree with the people who are saying personality 60%, because in attitude, and what I used to look for, probably a few things. You want people who have that hunger, that desire, that fire. Dr. Badr was saying yesterday that this whole event was about igniting a spark and then transforming it to a flame. And this is it. You need that flame to constantly be kind of driving you forward. The second thing I would look at is empathy in a leader. I think empathy is probably the most important value or quality a leader can have, because when you have empathy, you listen to people, you understand them, you feel for them, and you can create an environment that is an environment of possibility, not of threat. And environments of possibility nurture creativity, nurture innovation. It actually drives performance. The third thing is the willingness to be vulnerable as a leader. I look for that. We sometimes think, and even in the young age, that we have to be proper, that everything has to be fine, we know everything. Reality is nobody knows everything. Nobody. And unless you're willing to be vulnerable, you won't learn. The last thing is, on learning again, that desire to be able to learn and unlearn. Because with time, there are many things that we just have to say, you know what, I have to unlearn that to be able to move to the next thing. Those are the things that I would look for, and they're mainly in the space of attitude.
And has that changed over time? So would you say that there was a progression where in the beginning it was more technical skills, it was more the hard facts, and then slowly but surely there was a learning progression also in the corporate world in terms of the importance
Probably
of
the culture of corporate was that. For me, it was always about attitude, Laura, so I'm not going to help you with this.
Bailey, what do you observe? You work with many globally leading companies on these topics, and surely there must be trends that maybe even transcend cultural boundaries or countries in terms of what they are struggling with and what is really important for them to develop, especially maybe post-COVID.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. So they are struggling with, I'd say, more what we're calling the personality or the human skills side of things, and this is cross-industry and across the world as well. And I think, so first off, these skills, you have to first see them as skills, right? So they want these skills, and part of the reason why I started SkillsCamp in the first place was because companies were asking for it. They were saying, we want people who can work well with others. We want people who can communicate well. And I was working previously in a university, and so I knew firsthand that it wasn't being taught in the classroom. And I'm thinking, okay, then where are people supposed to learn these skills? We're kind of just hoping that because you did group work one time, that you now know how to collaborate well. Or because you lived in another country, you understand cross-cultural collaboration. But that's just not the case. So these skills are kind of like technical skills. Like if I was trying to learn to play football, I might break it down into its subsequent pieces, and I might learn kicking, and I might learn passing, and then I might practice those over time, and then ideally, over time, I'm going to become a better football player. And then similarly with a soft skill like, say, resilience, which is another one that is really, really big over the last few years, you would break it down into its subsequent components like adaptability, grit, optimism, growth mindset, and you would work on those over time and ideally become a more resilient person if you weren't already forced to develop these skills as a result of the life that you've lived. So they are struggling with these, and they are also asking for them more. So they're asking people like me, well, how do I assess for them in the interviews? And this is kind of a widespread conversation, again, across industry in the world of human resources. And they're saying, okay, well, I'm going to start asking behavioral questions. Like if I want to know that they're good at problem solving, I'm going to say, I might ask their references, can you tell me about some problems that they solved and their approach to problem solving? So if you've never thought about that before, you might not be able to answer it in an interview, but they might also ask it about you. So they're struggling with the people skills. They are asking for it more, too, on the corporate level.
You've mentioned a lot of different components that you break the skills into. I think we have an audience that is very curious also about, well, on their own journey, where do you start? There are many, many different items. And on a corporate level, where do you invest your money in terms of training? How can you make a prioritization? Ageel, you're a coach. Where would you say that's the starting point? Or how do you discover for yourself where the starting point is in developing these skills?
I think, Laura, we all grow up. If we go back when we were children, life was just... You see, that's fireworks when I say life is just a theater of possibility. When you're a kid, you want to do everything and you can do anything. Are we okay?
It's a good thing we're adaptable, eh?
Okay. So my mic is not working? Okay. Can you hear me now? So I was saying as children, we usually grow up and we fear nothing. We do everything. And then gradually we're told, don't do this, don't do that. There's boundaries. And that keeps on going. It happens in university, in college, in family, at work. And then all of a sudden, we see life from the lens of threat, from the lens of fear. And when we see it like that, we start putting our guards, or we try to fit in. And that's the worst thing that we could do. If we keep on seeing life from the lens of possibility and opportunity, then we show up. And the best thing we can do to the world is just simply showing up. Because once we show up in our wholeness, not afraid of anything, we can express ourselves. We can be creative, we can throw ideas, we can be silly, and that's how people grow. So that's probably the area that I would look at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ageel was coaching me backstage, I'm convinced.
But are companies ready for that? Do you see that? Because there's demand a lot for this type of upskilling. So that view of skills, of it is not a polarity, or it is a polarity, it's not either or. Are companies today ready for that?
Yes, I think that the companies that are committed to being here in 10 or 20 years are already talking about these and already have been. And I'd say, so this trend of automation that we've kind of heard a lot about yesterday and today and how that relates with these skills has always happened. I mean, there have always been positions like the scribe eventually became typist, eventually became the Xerox. At one point, you could have been a mechanic, and then it became a machine. This trend has always happened. So if you really need, where should you as an individual focus? If we need to give numbers to it, it might be the same as the poll at the beginning, like a 60-40, 50-50, 40% maybe on the technical skills that you need of the era of today, and those change too. Can you imagine if you had studied HTML and you were the best, and then you went over into Java? But then the other 50-60% all the time should be dedicated to the skills that serve me over a career and a lifetime, like leadership skills, like communication, like adaptability, and talking with people like Ageel, so how you find out how you as an individual can develop it. But the companies are ready. They definitely are ready. They would like their people to be well, to not be burning out, to be there, engaged, to not have as much turnover, for sure.
I think, Laura, just to add to this, because companies are realizing that this drives performance in the end. Yeah? So it's not just about creating an environment of well-being, and no, it is actually driving results. Any company who embraces that sees that on the P&L.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if you think about that in the broader context, and we heard a lot yesterday about purpose as well. We heard a lot about connecting as well. So bring your whole self to work. It's not only about the actual knowledge that you have accumulated or the technical skills that you've learned at university or in a training, but you as a person showing up. Is that something where you say this will keep us ahead of the technology, the robotics, the AI, but it will also drive economic performance? Is that the takeaway from there?
Well, I think it'll, like I keep saying, it'll serve, understanding these skills and developing them will serve you better over a career. And what I mean by that is the technical skills, honestly, the landscape of the era is going to change even more rapidly. We all just went through a number of changes, and some people's whole industry disappeared during the pandemic and then came back different. And so they had to figure out how to adapt and how to be resilient and how to be there. And then the other thing you have to consider is if you have any aspirations of leadership at all, period, then the further that you would rise in an organization, or if you're wanting to start your own business, then more and more you'll realize that it's not really about managing things. Your skills that are needed of you are more about your ability to catalyze people and your ability to, I would say, lead people and not manage things. So again, we're into this interpersonal connection and ability to do it well. That's the most important.
In the interest of the audience, I would like, because you both work professionally in that field, so I would love to ask you if you, knowing what you know today about how the world has developed, how this conversation about skills has developed, if you had to give an advice to your younger self when you were at the starting point of your careers, what would you advise yourself to think about or to do differently?
I would say to my young Ageel, in those moments of doubt, don't benchmark yourself to anybody else. Because the worst thing we can do is benchmarking ourselves to others. I think we can learn from others. We can find inspiration from others. But when we benchmark ourselves, we're just looking externally, while a lot of the answers are actually here inside us. And we can then grow. The best thing we can offer the world, I always say that, is yourself and a better version of yourself. And you continue to grow and evolve. But we all fall into those kind of traps of doubt. I've had that throughout my career. You always have that in many things. As a boss, as a leader, as a new entry, as a husband, as a father, I've always had those moments of doubt. I think more relevant now, because we live our life online, that we don't benchmark ourselves to others. I think it's really, really crucial.
Yeah, I mean, I can second what he's saying, because the other half of my life is about social media's impact on mental health. And so I know young people today, a prominent piece of it is comparing yourself. For my younger self, I would probably say start earlier with the entrepreneurship thing. So if I have any of you young folks in the audience, and most especially young women, I didn't have any entrepreneurs in my life or family or around me, and certainly definitely didn't see many female entrepreneurs. And so then it was kind of when I got to university and then I started attending events like this, where I literally remember an event kind of like this where I thought, oh my gosh, it was a women's awards, Women in Business Awards, and I was like, I have never seen even lifestyles like this. So I think I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur because I didn't see myself. And so had I gone back now, I would say just do it, and then you will be the one that other young people see. So I think, and then also for other young people today, I would say start. Like if you're thinking, what soft skills or people or personality traits should I be building up today? It should end with today, because sometimes people think, I'll build those skills that I need for leadership when I become the leader, and then don't become the leader because they haven't built the skills. Yeah. So you have to work on, you being able to work well with others or help a teammate out or take initiative is the very thing that's going to get you the job or get you the position or the leadership role, and then you can shine in the role. So I would say start today. You can do it by attending things like this. You can come to SkillsCamp, but it doesn't really have to be us either. And then remember that throughout your career, just like technical skills that are going to change all the time, soft skills, human skills, they also change. I mean, think about the way that we communicated with each other 10 years ago, or the way that we related to talking about emotions or empathy on stage. That's all changed a great deal in the last 5 to 10 years. You change, the world around you changes, so therefore your self-awareness and relationship to it will change too. So as you're going through your life and you're thinking, okay, I would like to up my skills on the most recent project management tool, every CEO I know also has a mindset coach. Honestly, every CEO I know has a mindset coach. So they're also thinking, I got to train my mind like I'm training my technical skills all throughout the career.
So what we are talking about is a very different reality from what maybe most leaders also have grown up in and have been socialized in terms of environment, because there it was you were set on a path, you had your technical skills, yes, you learned the people leadership skills, the communication skills, etc., but it was set and you could rely on the basis. What I hear from both of you is you can't really rely on that anymore, but you have to be very constantly looking at how to stay ahead, how to invest in yourself, and how to also evaluate yourself, whether you're still doing what you should be doing. What does that mean also for the education landscape? What does it mean for the employer landscape, the structures? So that sounds to me as if you're describing quite fundamental shift in how we think about jobs in general and qualifications in general.
You're getting very deep. Yeah, go ahead. You first.
I think it's good that this is happening because, as I said earlier, it does drive performance. And the more the whole ecosystem kind of understands that, then education will start to be tailored to serve this. Then people will be more receptive to say, yeah, we need to focus on these soft skills. And companies equally. If I talk about Unilever, which I've worked for many years, in Unilever right now, we look at what we call the inner game and the outer game with equal importance. The inner game are all these soft skills that we talk about right now, resilience, empathy, stuff like this, because we've seen the impact of that on how people come to work, how people perform, how creative they can be, the extra mile they're willing to push and do things. I think that's where it will continue to grow if everybody talks this language. So I'm actually happy that this is happening right now.
Why I say you're asking a deep question is because you're getting into the question of who is responsible for the development of people in a society. And I would say that people have tried to throw off this responsibility, and they're trying to say, oh, well, like, that should just be something that parents teach you. If you had a hard life, you might be resilient, lucky you, that's something that you could put on your resume. But I know that these are skills that can be built. If you've ever done anything one-on-one, like coaching or like therapy, they will work with you one-on-one to build these skills. And then you have people saying, no, that's supposed to happen in schools. And then they say, no, that's supposed to be the responsibility of the employer. And everybody, I think, is just pushing off the responsibility to the individual. I would be very much in the opposite direction. I think we all have a role in the continuous development and social and personal development of our people. And that includes education. That includes, I mean, the original promise of education, originally, formalized education, was to be that through liberal arts and hard skills or technical skills, we are trying to help you develop a brain that can be a functioning citizen over a lifetime. Mm-hmm. This was the original promise of education. How can you cut these human skills? How can you cut liberal arts education if we're trying to create a brain that lasts past the most recent hard skill of the day? So I also think, as an employer myself, that it is also part business's responsibility to just service their people, like to stop seeing it just as a human that is a resource and start seeing it as a human. Mm-hmm. And that's that.
And of course, organizations such as Misk help a lot because they do it across industries, etc. So we do see, and you might also see, that there's more and more of this, let's say, bringing together different industries, making sure there's different exposure, which is also the agility you were talking about in the beginning, the culture, but also the broad mindset of really exploring yourself more and maybe using these types of trainings also to realign yourself if need be. And that's also something that historically hasn't happened a lot. It was more focused on one company or one organization. Well, Ageel, Bailey, thank you very much for these insights. And I think going back to the poll that was done online, 62% personality, 38% technical skills. Are we agreeing? Are we saying this up to everyone else? What would you say is the right mixture?
I like that spread, actually. 30% focus on the performative skills that you need to actually do the role today. 63 or whatever it was % focus on the skills that'll carry you through. I mean, literally last week, I was telling you backstage, my friend, I couldn't have written it better for this. She works in film and television. She's a producer. She was hiring a makeup artist, and she says, she's not the best makeup artist, but she's really good on set. She's great for everybody else on set. And so that's not exactly what we're saying. I don't know what is.
I'm going to use empathy and say the people are always right here. So yes, I'm going to go with the people. I agree with them 100%.
Very good. Thank you very much for this conversation.